everyone, Rowan here. So today I thought we would play around with some Oracle decks. Not tarot decks and Oracle decks, just Oracle decks, because I have a lot of Oracle decks at this point that I think deserve the spotlight. They don't deserve to play second fiddle all the time. They deserve some focus on their own special traits that they bring to the table. They deserve to be given time to shine and to sing. And I don't think people, like, we get, let me not be descriptive or prescriptive for others and instead talk only about my own experiences. I get very locked into using my cards a certain way, and sometimes that makes me feel kind of trapped when I go to use them. So, like, for example, I used to, back when I was first learning spreads, I would start learning a spread, and that would be how I would do my card pulls every single day. And then I'd learn a new spread, and that new spread would become my daily spread. And then I started working with oracles and tarot simultaneously, rather than working with tarot first and then oracle as a clarifier. So then I moved over to the 3-card pull, where you have the oracle in the center and then the tarot on either side. Classic, but, well, maybe not classic in the classical sense, but classic in the modern sense, if that makes any sense. But I would do that pull, and that kind of made me feel a little bit bogged down after a while. And so with some of my newer decks, I've just been working with tarot on its own. Like the Star Power Tarot, I like to use solo. The Lillifer Tarot, while it does have some pairings in my collection I like it with, I also like it on its own. The Gay Marseille on its own. The Wayfarer Tarot on its own. And so I've kind of come back around to using spreads again. But that means that some of the Oracle decks that are in my collection are not being used, and I love them. I love my Oracle decks. I have specifically chosen, I mean, not every deck in my collection is a perfect one, but I have specifically tailored my Oracle collection so that each of my Oracle decks, well, most of my Oracle decks stand on their own. And so let's talk about some of them. We're going to go in the order that I received them, because I think that helps my brain, I think. Let's just get into it. So nobody will be surprised when I say that the Wild Unknown Archetypes Oracle by Kim Krans is something that can absolutely stand on its own. This deck is 78 archetype cards that are sorted into different suits. The suits are I think it's like the selves, the locations, the tools, and the initiations, or something like that. But there's whatever they are, there's 5 of them, and this deck, because it has so many cards, and because Kim Krans has done an excellent job of not necessarily making sure that none of the cards overlap, but making sure that each card is its own specific circle on a Venn diagram that interconnects all of the cards. I really applaud the amount of work that had to go into this deck, and I just think it's so cohesive. I think that this deck really gives you a lot of options that allow for the cards to communicate with each other in a way that doesn't just highlight similarities, but also highlights differences. I think this deck is very strong. That's a good word for it. This is a very strong Oracle deck, and I thoroughly friggin' love it. Let's take a look at some of the cards here. This deck has been out for quite a while, so I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it, like showing it off, but I'll take a moment to do that. So as you can see, this is a collage deck, mixed media collage deck. It's got watercolor and analog collage. I don't know how much of this was made digitally, but it's lovely. I like it. I think that you can use this with tarot, or you can use it on its own. This deck is flexible like that. It's good for clarifying. It's good for standalone readings. The specific method of reading that is in the guidebook, where you separate all the suits out and you draw one card from each of them to check in on all aspects of your life. Like, I think that's a really cool spread, and I've done it before, and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Thought it gave a good reading. This deck is a 10 of 10 for me. I mean, like, literally the only notes that I have are solved with the new mini edition. So I love this deck. I can't speak highly of it enough. I know it's not for everyone because of the round shape, but that's something that is so easy for me to look past and work past. I do wish it were just a smidgen smaller. Like, I wish it didn't have this border's worth of space. I wish it were just boop, a little bit smaller, but that's okay. I still consider it a 10 of 10. So the next Oracle deck that I want to talk about that I really think stands on its own, the Poesis. So we just talked about a mass market one. This one is an indie Oracle, unless you get it from Amazon France, in which case you can get a mass market version of it en français. But this is, once again, I believe this one is also 78 cards, but it might be 77, but I want to say it's 78. This deck is not archetypical. This is a more traditional Oracle deck in that, well, I don't even know if traditional is the right word for it, because when I think traditional Oracle deck, I think angel cards, quite frankly. And this deck is nothing like that, but it's more like the how about the standard Oracle deck, where it just gives you an image and a keyword. There's not really a theme. There's not really a separate title. It's just an image and a keyword for you to jump off of. And this deck is super simple. It pairs with a lot of decks, but it also pairs with itself really well. The keywords are vague. They do have some overlap, but because there's so many cards, the overlap matters less, and you can really see the minutia that separates the different vibes. So like root and body, those are both cards that would tell me that I need to ground, but root tells me I need to connect with the earth, and body tells me I need to connect with myself. So like there's definitely, this card is so fun. I draw it all the time. Ugh. This deck is really good. It's simple, it's straightforward, and its simplicity is possibly its biggest strength. And that is the Poesis Oracle. There is a guidebook, or rather, there is poetry connected with this deck. The poetry can be found online on the website for the deck, or I will link a PDF that I have made of the poetry below, because having to log on to a website every time you want to work with a deck of cards seems really silly to me, so I did the work of making the PDF for all of y'all. It especially ticks me off because the French mass market version comes with a guidebook. You know what? We're going to move on. So the Poesis Oracle really stands on its own, and I love it for that. The next Oracle that I got, that I have to talk about, this one's a little bit different, because while it does stand on its own, it was made to sort of mimic the tarot, and that is the Tantric Dakini Oracle. Now, mine is heavily modified. I do not keep it in its box. I keep it in this weird little bag that I've made for it. I have trimmed off the borders and edged mine in a deep purple color, but this is an analog collage deck that is meant to sort of mirror the structure of the tarot and have associations with the tarot meanings of the cards, while also layering on top of them tantric philosophy and spiritualism, yogic practices, chakras, things like that. So this deck mixes in a lot of I'm assuming Hindu Tantra, I assume Tantra is a delineation of the Hindi faith. However, I have not actually educated myself properly in that regard, but I think it's Hindu. However, this deck, you don't need to know a bunch of stuff about Hindu faith or Tantra or the Dakinis to work with it. The guidebook is very spiritual and will fill in all of those spiritual gaps for you, so don't you worry about that. The only thing I would say is that the guidebook takes itself very seriously. And that is something I've said about this deck in the past, that the guidebook takes itself super seriously. You do not have to take this deck that seriously. There is a card in here that is just Cosmic Carrot. There is a card in here that says Dangerous Pussy. Okay? And I'm pretty sure it means it in the Volvic way, because these lions layered on top of each other are really giving me labia. So yeah, this deck should not take itself as seriously as it does, because quite frankly it's a fun ride in as much as it is also a serious spiritual tool. So the Tantric Dakini. If you work with this with the guidebook, every draw you get from here is going to be about personal development, spiritual paths, etc., which is really frustrating to me. I've said before that I don't like it when tarot decks are super focused in like that, or when oracle decks are super focused in like that. However, the guidebook also gives you health relations for the cards, because there's like a body spread that it talks about, and one of the positions is the spleen, and so when a card ends up in the spleen position, it relates to how your physical body interacts with the meaning of that card. And I'm also not a fan of medical readings from tarot or oracle, but because it has that more mundane application, you can kind of like Venn diagram the concepts of the spiritual end of things, as well as the concepts that are on the more health end of things, layer them over each other, and get like an actual meaning out of the card that can be used for more daily readings. So this deck does have hope. The guidebook is thick enough and so in-depth, so very in-depth, but it's so funny because it relates to the Dakinis very little. I mean, I'm not super educated. Again, I'm not super educated on Tantra or the Dakinis, but from everything I can tell and from what other people have said about it, it is just as silly as I think it is. Not silly in a pejorative way, though. Let me stress that. I love this deck. So when I say these negative things about it, it comes from a place of love. You know, you have to appreciate the ups and the downs of something. So that is the Tantric Dakini Oracle. I think, like I said, I think it's an absolute workhorse. Then, this one's a little bit different from the others in another way. The Iris Oracle. So the Tantric Dakini, mass market. Iris, independent. We've got a bit of a pattern going here, don't we? So the Iris is an independent oracle deck, and this is unlike any other oracle deck I have in my collection because the key phrases are highly specific and very imaginative. So Labyrinth is a little bit vague, but one of these here, Party Leader, that's fun. Puppet, Laughing and Crying, and this is the one I was thinking of. Ungrateful Daughter and Earthly Mother. Like, some of these are highly specific, and look at the images that I have not been showing you because I wasn't paying attention to the viewfinder. Love Grows Love, and you've got this picture here of what looks to be an infected finger infected with love. What was that finger doing? Oh my. So this deck is sassy, it's biting, it's cutting. It's not just biting, it's cutting. And I think that this deck, while it can handle larger spreads on its own, I think that its real power is in being the main focus of a pull. So I would, quite frankly, rather than using this as a clarifier, I would set the tone for an entire reading with this deck. I would pull this card first and then make sense of it with the tarot afterwards, rather than the other way around. So this deck has Dom Mommy energy, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, this deck is going to hold you, cradle the back of your head gently as it dunks you underwater, pulls you back up in for a kiss, and says, "You are blessed, my child. Go forth and shine your light." That is this deck. Maybe that was a little bit over the top, but you get what I'm going for, right? It really shines when you let it take center stage like that. So I haven't done as much work with it as I would like to, because like I said, recently I've been very into using tarot on its own or with Oracle only as a clarifier again. So I recently okay, hold on, let me get into that in a minute. First, I want to keep talking about decks. The next deck that I have today to share with you that I think holds its own. So now we're getting into a category that's slightly different. This is a deck that, while I do think it holds its own, it also... I wouldn't do like a Celtic cross with this deck, I don't think. I mean, you could. Actually, yeah, I take it back. I take it. Ignore everything I just said. This deck is same. It's on par with everything else that I've mentioned so far, and that's the Citadel Oracle. So this deck is something like 60 cards, and it's not as large as I would like it to be. It's closer in size to the Tantric Dakini, which is 64 cards. The Iris Oracle, by the way, is, I believe, 78 cards as well. So I've got 3 decks that are all 78 cards, and then I've got 2 decks here that are in the 60s. This is another Archetypes deck, the Citadel is. So it's kind of similar to the Kim Cran's one that I first showed, but it's fundamentally different. It's far more person-oriented, so like these are personality archetypes, most of them. So, I mean, all of them are personality archetypes. These are all meant to express characters. However, some of them also express situations that people can be put in, and some of them express, places almost. Some of these characters are so heavily tied to the environment you will find them in that they are basically the place as well as the character. So this is a different deck. One of my subscribers actually commented asking if, well, not really asking, but saying that they had had trepidation about this deck because it may overlap too much with the Wild Unknown archetypes, and I just think that these are different enough. While some of the cards are similar, like both decks have a Queen card, both decks have a Witch card, I do think that the associations with those cards shift a little bit, because one of them has these as archetypes of modern society, and that's the Unknown archetypes, and the Citadel has these as archetypes of a fantasy world. So when you put them in those different contexts, different connotations come out with those cards. So I do think that the decks have enough spiritual differences that they read energetically with quite a bit of variation one from another, and I do think it's worth having both of them. But that is the Citadel Oracle, and I wish it had a different box. I'm not the only person to say this. Let me take a drink of tea, please. That's herbal. Whew! That is sage and yerba santa. Very herbal. I ran out of honey, so it's not as sweetened as it normally is. I like my tea sweet, thank you. The last deck that I want to talk about, this one, so this one isn't something I would say stands on its own, but it is something that deserves to be highlighted because it is so multifunctional, and that is the Sacred Symbols for Divination and Meditation Oracle deck by Marcella Kroll. I'm very inconsistent with when I mention who makes these decks. I'm so sorry about that. That's very rude of me. But this deck is 50 cards, so this is the least number of cards we've seen so far. 50 is my bare minimum for what I want an Oracle to be. Don't comment about how my first Oracle deck was only 36 cards up until I added the expansion pack. I know. We fixed it with the expansion pack, okay? So this deck is very simple. It is like the Citadel and Poesis, but turned down to an even simpler notch. We just get one color, we get a line drawing, and we get a keyword. I have edged mine in gold. It does not come that way. But I like this deck for pairing with just about anything, and I know we were supposed to be talking about decks that stand on their own, but I'm also going to talk about how we can pair Oracle with Oracle, and so I wanted to mention this deck because it pairs really well with other Oracle decks. It helps to, it sort of acts as a clarifier for the Oracles. I got cut off, but I was saying that it acts as a clarifier for other oracle cards as well. So I wanted to make sure to mention this because the next thing that I want to talk about is the other day, and this isn't the first time I've ever done this, but the other day I was feeling like I couldn't figure out which tarot deck I wanted to use, and I was really struggling with working with tarot. Lately, every time well, not lately, because this morning I sort of got past this block, but for the past week or so, every time I looked at a tarot pull, my brain just like flatlined. I didn't make sense of any of the cards. None of the meanings came through to me. None of the pulls seemed to connect with me. Like there were messages to be found there for sure. Like I don't want to say that I wasn't receiving messages, because that wasn't the case. No. It's not that the messages were not there. It's that it is that I was not receiving them. I was incapable of connecting with the tarot cards. And it's funny because I was like studying the cards at the same time. I'm still working on finishing up. Well, I'm not finishing up. I'm still working on getting through my tarot studies book. So that's still a thing that's happening. And perhaps because I have been spending so much brain power on that, I just didn't really have the wherewithal to focus on deriving meanings from these very occult symbols. And I just, every time I would look at a tarot card, I would just go, oh. And it sort of was like burnout, but not quite. It was more like exasperation. Like I was just so exasperated every time I pulled the cards that I didn't want to work with them. And so I thought, what do I want to work with? I want to work with some more straightforward messages. I want to work with some stuff that's not hidden behind numbers and elements. I want to work with some stuff that's a little bit more in my face, something I don't have to work as hard to derive meaning from. And so I pulled out my oracles. The one that I really wanted to play around with because it's newest in my collection was the Iris, but I needed something to support it because, as I said before, the Iris Oracle is a little bit too on the nose with each and every card. So pulling one at a time is the best way to make a message ring loudly, I guess, and not be drowned out in all the noise. And so I paired it with the Poesis because this one is so simple and so almost nebulous in its answers that I thought the two of them would work well together. And then I thought, you know what, let's really go for gold. And I added in the Wild Unknown Archetypes because the working with archetypes is just so helpful with making sense of a reading. This deck is just such a good clarifier, and I really wanted, oops, excuse me, I just bumped y'all. I really wanted something that was going to be easy to get a message from, so I thought, all right, let's pair these three together. Oh my god, the reading I got was amazing. And then I started just pulling cards and seeing what all of the messages were, and it woke me up. Like, it fixed my exasperation. It really did. It made it easy for me to receive the messages that I needed to journal. And that's really what it was. I was having blockages with my journaling, and this combination helped to undo that. So let's take a look at what these pair like together. So the way I set it up, we did the archetypes at the top and bottom. So there was like a peak archetype and then a shadow archetype that were worked with. There was a single iris card in the center, which gave the overall energy of the reading. And then there were two Poesis cards, one on either side this way. And they acted as a sort of continuation or reapplication of the message that the center cards gave. They gave context to the archetypes. They added, it was just a really good spread. This is something that I would highly recommend. And you don't have to use these decks for it, which you listen to what I'm saying about the decks to derive how you would go through your own collection to do the same thing. So in the center, you want something that's sassy, biting, and specific. On the edge, you want something that's a little bit more supportive and vague. And then on the top and bottom, you want archetypes of some sort. Or they could be, like, you could work with a majors only deck and pull archetypes for the top and bottom. You could work with the Citadel, you could work with this one, you could, like, really any deck that works with these archetypical energies. I know there's other Oracle decks that do, I just don't have any of them. So that is how I set that up. Let me give a quick shuffle to these decks. I know we've been shuffling them, but I also showed you the cards in order. Well, not in order, but I showed you the cards and I don't want them to end up in that order again. So we'll do a sample pull here so that everyone can see how good these bounce off of each other when you mix them all together. Y'all might not be able to see it all because my reading table is really small, so I'm gonna have to mess around with the camera a little bit. We'll figure it out. Hold up. Boink. And last but not least, the iris itself. That one wants to be on top, so it will be on top. Alrighty. So, let's give a little scoochy poo. Get everything as centered as possible. Oh, y'all can mostly see it. Alright, let's go from here. So, we're going to start with flipping over the iris because this is our main focal point. And we get calm, or calm within transformation. So this is specific, right? This isn't just transformation. This isn't just calm. This is calm within transformation. So this is not giving me Yennefer in The Witcher giving up her uterus to become beautiful. This is giving a snake shedding its skin over the course of multiple hours. And obviously we get the snakes here at the bottom. We also get candles. So the idea of wax transfiguring from being this solid to being smoke. So yeah, calm within transformation. So what are some of the messages we can receive to support that? We get observe and heal. Okay. So this, I've already got some messages, but let's go ahead and pull up the archetypes to see what else flows with this. We get the bridge and the orphan. Oh, right. So I am definitely getting the idea that you need to spend some time with yourself to, quite frankly, hug your inner child and, like, be the peace offering between the ways in which other people have harmed you in the past and you have harmed yourself, and you need to, like, reach your hand across, be that bridge between the past and the future, and allow your inner hurts. We all have inner hurts from our childhood, right? You don't grow up without trauma. It's a guaranteed part of getting older, right? The world is traumatic. And so I know that you can find something in your path. You have to look for it. You have to find it. And then you need to find the ways in which it's affecting you and heal those things. There needs to be a bridging between what you know you deserve and what you give yourself, because right now those things are not aligning. And the orphan, this card is all about your sad inner child. This card is all about the ways in which you were left behind by the people who were supposed to be taking care of you. This card is all about the ways in which your needs were not met. And so this right here tells me that right now you are going through, not one would, the subject of the reading, whether that's myself, someone else, let's pretend that it's me actually. So this reading tells me that I need to spend some time following the patterns that my inner orphan is establishing, watching the ways those grow into the rest of my life, bridging the gap that is between who I am today and who I used to be, and healing the wounds that are associated with making that cavernous gap in the first place. So these cards just work so well together, and I think more people should mix their Oracle decks with their Oracle decks, and that's really what I'm getting at here. So I hope this sample reading gave you an idea as to how you can do that. Another combination that I would recommend is the Citadel Oracle with, this one's going to seem a little bit silly because I don't think that it's a deck that I mean, like, I don't think I've talked well about this deck, but I love it. I want to be clear about that. I have problems with it, but I love it. The Outlaw Oracle. These two pair really well together, so that's another pairing that I do recommend if you have them both in your collection. All right? So before I let you go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for hanging out with me and with my tarot, or I suppose today with my oracle cards. Thank you for playing a little bit of pairs with me. I hope you are having an amazing day. Please leave some of your favorite oracle decks down below and mention whether or not you think they can stand on their own or how you like to use them. So if you don't have any strong oracle decks in your collection, if all of yours are more meek and mild, please feel free to mention your favorite meek and mild decks, because those have a place as well. And then also let me know if you've got any strong load-bearing decks in your collection, because that's pretty cool too. Let me know if you have any future video ideas that you would like to see, like if there are any tags that are going around that I've missed or anything like that. I'm probably going to do the new Lisa Pepez and Peggy Pepez wacky questions tag. I'll have that coming out. Who knows when? I don't know. I'll probably do it though. And then I know I'm also going to be eventually getting around to making more of the Top Tarot Trumps series, so look out for those. At this point, they're part of my card studies, so I am enjoying making those videos. Teaching y'all about like how I read those cards helps me to cement my own understanding of the cards a little bit better, so I'm definitely going to work my way through the rest of that series. But thank you for hanging out with me. I am a broken record. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a great day, and don't forget to vote in your local elections. That's super important if you live in a democracy. Mwah! I love you. Bye.